What up, YouTube? Today we got a 2018 Chevy Malibu with a rear steering knuckle bushing problem. So we're going to be replacing that today. Let's go ahead and get started. Do you need some new headlights for your vehicle? How about some turn signals? Some that are actually very bright. Click the link in the description below and check out Auxito LEDs. And if you use code AndysAuto, you'll get 15% off your order. Now back to the video. Alright, so we got her jacked up in the air, Chevy Malibu. Got to get the wheel off. Alright, we got the wheel off now. We got access to our brakes. So next thing we're probably going to want to do is take this Torx bolt out of the rotor. And then we want to probably disconnect the brake caliper here from that bolt and wherever the lower one is down here. Well, we may not be able to. Well, we'll have to see. We got to disconnect all this stuff. This bolt and this bolt here. We got to disconnect this one and this one. Of course, we got to get the brakes off. So I'm going to get started with the brakes. We're going to go ahead and remove this first, and then we're going to try to get this caliper off. Alright, now we got that out. Time to tackle the caliper. Alright, now we got those two bolts out. We can go ahead and slide the caliper off and just kind of set it in here for a moment. And we can also slide the rotor off, set it to the side. Also, here's the new part. That's what we're going to be replacing. The problem is this bushing right here. The rubber is worn out, so this metal sleeve is able to kind of clunk up and down, side to side. I think it was up and down though, and it was making a popping or a clunking noise. So if you've got a popping or a clunking noise on your Chevy Malibu from the rear, you may want to check this out. Okay, so now we can kind of see a little bit more what we're working with. One of the next things we need to do is take the bolts out for the wheel bearing. Also went ahead and put the jack under the control arm here just in case, because I don't want that spring coming out at me. I don't know if it's going to come down or not, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. The shock will still be connected, so we should be good, but can't hurt to put that there. Now doubled up on my jack stands. So now I think just because they are the easiest to get to, we'll probably tackle this upper control arm and this upper control arm. Those are 21s on both the bolt and the nut. So I'm going to put my wrench on one side and my impact on the other side, and we're going to get both of those off now. Alright, so this one here's out. I did end up having to break the nut loose with the 21mm wrench several turns because my gun just didn't have the power. And then also, it's a little bit too big to fit in this wheel well here, so I had to use a swivel to get on there once it was broken loose. And now we can remove this bolt and just kind of let that chill there. It's kind of another reason why I put this under there, because we may end up needing to raise this up a little bit to get these connected properly. So now I'm going to move on to this side. Alright, we got this one out as well. Pretty much same deal. Break the nut loose with the wrench, and then we took the impact with the swivel kind of from right here to get it out. This one was a bit tighter than the other one, so I did have to break it loose with my foot. Also, it may have been a good idea to go ahead and disconnect the wheel speed sensor first so that it's not kind of being pulled by this control arm. So I'm going to go ahead and do that next. I believe that's a 10mm. And hopefully this sensor will just, oh yeah, very nice. It just pulls right out. Hopefully you guys have the same experience. If not, you can just try to get a flathead or something and pull it out. As of right now, this is 2024 when I'm working on this 2018. So if it's like 20 years in the future and you're doing this, I do apologize for you, because you will not have as easy a luck as I did. Anyway, now I think we'll probably start tackling the bearing bolts. You can kind of see them right there. There's 3 of them in a triangle shape. There's 2 at the top, 1 down there kind of at the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and tackle that now. And we might have to beat on it a little bit to get this out, or use a pry bar or something like that. But I want to do this before it gets too far disconnected, so that way we still have kind of a solid surface for this to absorb the impact. Also, I don't know for sure, but that tree is totally rubbing against that power line, and you can kind of hear it squeaking every time the wind blows. I don't know if you guys just heard that little creak over there, but if that tree falls, I'll be sure to try to catch that on film. All right, we got 2 of the bolts out. We're working on the last one. We got the bottom one and the top left. And as you can see, that bearing's trying to work itself free, so we're not gonna have to struggle too much. I do have a slide hammer with the attachment in case I needed it, but it's coming out. I guess one of the benefits of it still being relatively new. Once again, if you're watching this like 20 years in the future, good luck. All right, now we got those bolts out. This thing should just come out. Awesome. So we'll set that to the side and we'll continue working. All right, so we finally got the 2 bolts out of this arm. I was able to get the top one just by sticking the gun back in there and getting that out. This one was a little too close to the control arm for the gun to fit, so I had to use a wrench to loosen that up. So now, the only thing left is this bottom bolt, which should also be a 21 on both sides. And now that the bottom bolt is out, this is kind of what we're working with here. And then we got the old one and the new one sitting right here. And I don't know if it's not really bad enough to move by hand. That would be pretty crazy, but we're gonna go ahead and put this new one on now. All right, so we kind of got these 2 bolts just about snugged up. And of course we got the bottom one in. I'm gonna just kind of put these on hand tight and then go from there. All right, so I went ahead and reinstalled the dust shield, making sure that the opening is on the side where the caliper's gonna bolt up. You wanna be able to see those holes, of course. And then we put our old bearing back on, because there's nothing really wrong with this one. It's not a bad time to replace the bearing, and you should be able to replace the bearing with this video as a guide as well. Also, if you were in a shop or if you have the tools to do it, it's probably not a bad idea if you're reusing the old bearing to try to clean this surface up to the best of your ability. Also, on the back of the bearing, there was like a blue line that lined up with the bolt hole on the bottom, kinda on the part of the bearing that goes in here. There's a blue line on the bearing right around here that kind of lines up with that bottom bolt, so I assumed that that was the way it was supposed to go. Yours may or may not have that. It seems pretty universal though. I don't know if it matters which way you put it on necessarily, but I figured since there was a mark there, it was probably because that's the way it's supposed to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these 3 bolts on the bearing tightened up all the way. Still haven't tightened up these 2 bolts or the one on the bottom yet, but we'll get to those. All right, so we got this upper control arm in now. I did go ahead and tighten this lower bolt, and then we've got both of those tightened as well. And of course we got our bearing tightened up. Now we can go ahead and put this wheel speed sensor back in, and we should have nice fresh threads to put the bolt in with. All right, so we did have to jack the suspension up just a little bit, but I was able to get this last arm here on and tightened up. So now we want to move on, put the rotor back on, as well as the screw that holds it on, and then the caliper. Alright, and now that we've got that done, let's go ahead and do a quick recap of everything we've done here. We tightened the bottom bolt for the lower control arm. We tightened this for the rearward upper control arm. We tightened this bolt for the frontward upper control arm. We tightened the two bolts that hold this arm on. I don't know if this is a lateral link or a trailing arm. I think it's a trailing arm is what they call that. And I think these might be the lateral links technically. Or maybe this is the lateral link and that's the upper control. They all call them something different, honestly. But anyway, we've got these bolts all tightened up. We've got the 3 bolts that holds the wheel bearing on, as well as the 2 bolts that hold the brake caliper on over here. And then we've got the rotor screw put back on. So now all we need to do is put the wheel back on. Oh, and also we put the wheel speed sensor back in. So let's get this wheel back on. And don't forget to torque your wheel. I used around 100 foot-pounds. And that's going to be the end of the video for today, guys. Hope you all enjoyed. If you are in the middle of this job anytime in the near future and you need any assistance, I'll be happy to answer any questions that I can. Otherwise, please like, comment, and definitely subscribe to the channel. We're trying to hit 3,000 subscribers by the end of the year. If you could help me out with that, I'd greatly appreciate it. Otherwise, stay tuned for many more awesome videos on the Andy's Auto YouTube channel. This is Andy, signing off.